The 617th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is giving away $15 million in Best Ball Mania 5. Sign up today with promo code MMASGPN to claim your first-time deposit offer of up to $250 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code MMASGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm has the best AI picks and projections, and their college football product is about to drop. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Howdy ho, DeGenerinos. Welcome to episode 617 of the MMA Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Going out to Christian Garcia, who hit 127-1 parlay thanks to us, tailing our picks. And you know, there's one thing that we love is massive parlays. So this goes out to you, Christian Garcia. Congrats on hitting that. Don't ever do that again, though. Thanks for coming to the show. I am the host, one of the hosts, the king of Kung Fu, Jeff Fox. And the UFC is back. I guess they weren't really gone, but the pay-per-view is rolled around again this month. It's UFC 304 this week, going down in Manchester, England. So we will be covering all the prelims today, 9 prelim fights. So we're going to have to jump into it quick. I know people tend to like when we drag things out at the starting, but today I think we're going to have to jump right into the nitty-gritty of things. Let's bring in the co-host, the man who will be going up against me with his picks. Actually, we should recap last week, maybe very quickly. The results. So let's bring in Gumby first. It's one and only Daniel Gumby Vreeland. Hello.
Yeah, I'm surprised you want to go over last week's because anything we disagreed on, you maybe didn't fare all that well on.
Yeah, I went 7-4. I won $239 based off $100 on every fight, which is the only way to gamble. Gumby went 9-2 and won $612. Amazing. So I'm still double. I'm up almost 1,000. You're down 1,800, but there's still time for that.
There's still time.
Yeah. I'm hitting 63%. You're hitting 56%. Gumby hit his lock, his dog, and his prop play last week. I hit my lock and my dog. So it was a good week. As we said, I think on Sunday's episode, we just briefly breezed over that it was a good week. And I assume that everybody in our Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord, had a good time as well, because hopefully they listen to us and follow our plays.
Yeah, it seemed to be bumping with good picks and people being excited. So that was good. I also will just say, like, not that we need to recap an event that's now 4 or 5 days old, but like, it's just like so refreshing sometimes when we have these like step up in competitions in a main event or something. And it's like a chance to get a brand new challenger that like the division badly needs for like a little freshness. And not only do they win, but they win so convincingly that they're like an undeniable challenger. So like, not that Amanda Lemos winning would have been like the worst thing in the world, but like we've seen what happens when she steps up and fights Weili Zhang. Now we have like a completely new style matchup who went in there and sauced Amanda Lemos in like a violent way, got her out of there quick. So like, I find that really exciting. And like, you know, regardless of who you're a fan of, you got to like things getting like mixed up in divisions a little bit.
And Gumby had that pick. So I think that's the real reason he's excited about it is he had Verna Jandiroba as the pick. So speaking of Weili Zhang, the first fight we're breaking down, one of the fighters fought Weili Zhang. Did you know that, Gumby?
I did know that. Yeah, she's actually her strength of schedule, and we will talk about her momentarily. Her strength of schedule is one of the most bizarre I've ever seen. It is both very good and the worst. And so I mean, I feel like we should just save that for when we start breaking it down. Which exactly. Let's get cracking.
Okay, but before we do that, I got to make sure that you check out this week's feature podcast, the MLB Gambling Podcast. They give you all the picks you need to crush the MLB season, and they're very entertaining while they give you the picks. So, plus the college football experience is knee deep in 134 team previews. Boy, oh boy, some people work as hard as we do, Gumby. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and the SGPN app, and of course, YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, Gumby, do you have something to tell people about YouTube?
Oh, yeah. You guys should subscribe to our YouTube because if I don't tell you, you don't. Hit the little button that says subscribe. If you don't want notifications, that's fine. Turn them off because it helps our numbers get up. It makes our bosses happy, and that makes us happy so we can keep giving you winning picks for event after event after event.
Yes. Yeah, we just finished a run of regional MMA. If you haven't listened yet, they're worth. If you haven't maybe gambled on regional MMA or watched regional MMA, we treat it's doing very well. We treat everything non-UFC as regional MMA, even though it could be PFL or big stuff like that. But Gumby knows his stuff, and that's pretty much where a lot of the money is made, because the lines aren't quite as sharp as big UFC ones are. So anyhow, check it out if you haven't already. But we run 3 regional shows a week for you, 3 regional episodes a week at the very least.
And Contender Series is right around the corner, man.
Yep. And next week we got PFL and LFA, so we got some big quote unquote regional cards to do next week. So fun stuff. All right, let's get to the biggest of the regional cards. UFC 304, Edwards versus Muhammad 2. This pay-per-view is topped by 2 rematches. This one's in Manchester. Sort of. Are you mad for it?
Sort of rematches. Like the real fights, the other fights never really took place.
It's true. They technically happen on paper. Really not much in the cage though. All right, this is going down. We're doing the prelims, so they kick off at 6 p.m. So early prelims, which we'll do first, obviously, 6 p.m. And then the feature prelims, the main prelims, 8 p.m. Eastern this week. So it's going to be middle of the night over in England. It's going down in the Co-op Live, Manchester, England. Like I said, 14 fights. We're jumping into it right now with the opener on the card. This is going to be a British or a UK heavy fight card for sure. We got Shauna Bannon versus Alice Ardelean. So we got Ireland versus Romania. This is 3 5-minute rounds at strawweight. We'll tell you about the newcomer first. Ardelean, she was the one that we were dancing around earlier. Talk about her strength schedule. She is 9-5, 4 knockouts, 4 submissions. She's been submitted twice. This is her short notice debut in the UFC, so all the alarm bells should be going off in your head currently. As people who have listened to this or watched this for a while know, late replacement fighters don't win. 36% hit rate. I don't have a late replacement newcomer to the UFC, but I would assume the number would be even worse for someone making their debut on short notice. But that is where Ardelean finds herself this week. She's won 5 straight fights, 3 straight via finish, so that is very impressive. Is not lost since May of 2016, and that was to the aforementioned Weili Zhang. So yeah, she's fought Weili Zhang. She also fought like a bunch of 0-2 people. So yeah, a very, very strange strength of schedule. And to be fair, this was when Weili Zhang barely had any fights under her belt either. So wasn't as impressive at the time that she beat her. She has multiple regional championships on her
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Get sticky with it. Ardelean used to fight at 125, 2012 Pro MMA debut, plus 146. Mama B, Shauna Bannon, 5-1, 2 knockouts. Never been finished in a fight. 0-1 in the UFC. Lost her last fight. That was back in July of 2023. She went 2-0 in Invicta. She is a regional champion. 2 inches height, 4 inches of reach over Ardelean. A year younger, minus 165. Get us started, Gumby.
So this one was kind of tricky for me because I didn't know much about Ardelean. Like, she wasn't even remotely on my radar, which is wild because, like, usually anybody who gets signed to the UFC, I've heard of them. I've probably broken down fights from them before. Like, this one was completely out of the blue. And I went and watched her. And to your point, like, since she's lost to Weili Zhang, and she actually had a pretty good record before she fought Weili Zhang in terms of, like, strength of schedule. Like, she fought Christina Stanciu, who has fought for some big promotions as well. She got beat by Deanna Balbicha, who's in the UFC. Like, she's fought people before, but like all of her recent fights, like she fought an 0-3 chick last time, and that woman has proceeded to lose a couple more times. She's like 0-6 now. She's fought really terrible competition. So like, it's kind of hard to glean what her skills are, but like in a lot of those fights, like she looks like she's just trying to brawl as much as she can. In her brawling style, like her hands are up, like she's trying to defend her face at the beginning of the combinations. But as the combinations extend longer and longer and longer, her hands just go further and further and further south. Also, just about in every single fight, she winds up trying to like bully a takedown because she's kind of like, I think, tiring herself out on the feet. And with that and it being short notice, I'm going to go with Bannon here. I haven't loved what I've seen from her in that, what was it, one UFC fight? Like it was just the one. She just lost the Bruna Brazil fight. But like, if you watch her stuff in Invicta, like the what was it, Mina Grusander fight, like she picks her spots really well. She boxes pretty well. She lives behind her jab. Her straights, her kickboxing is technical, and she's got like little push kicks she uses too to create space. So if she's up against somebody who's just going to come in here and try to brawl your head off, I think Bannon probably keeps the space well here. He probably picks her apart to a decision. She's not going to knock her out. And I've also seen Bannon like get taken down a couple of times, which some people might see as a problem, but she always gets back up pretty quick. And so I don't think Ardelean has like a path to victory there either. So I'm going to go Shauna Bannon here.
Yeah, I am as well. We're actually getting a good line, all things considered. A short notice newcomer, and with a questionable resume, even to begin with. I'm not sold on Bannon by any means, though.
No.
She's
just not dangerous enough, I think, is my problem. And even and that's with the caveat that it's women's strawweight, and we know that like not tons of women in that division are finishers because it's a lighter weight class. But like she's like her punches don't look like they do tons of damage, or at least they didn't on Bruna Brasil, to the point where it didn't deter her from attacking, which is, maybe a problem here too. But I'm still taking her.
Yeah, there's no physicality there, no real danger. So I think there's obviously a very low ceiling to her game, even though, to be fair, I did like her when she was in Invicta, but now seeing her up against, up against higher competition is kind of like, you see the limitations, but young in her career, who knows? Maybe she'll add old man strength. Who's to say? All right, we're going for the lowest of the low weight classes to the highest of the high weight classes, and boy, we got ourselves some fun heavyweights. We have a sloppy heavyweight over. I don't know. These guys aren't really super chunky guys either, Gumby. So will this still count?
Parkin's got a little. Parkin's got a little bit of a midsection, and I think Brzeski has fought at 205. But
yeah. Mick Parkin versus Łukasz Brzeski. Yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen. England versus Poland, I believe, right, for Brzeski. Yes. 3 5-minute rounds if they need it. Sloppy heavy. Who is in the Discord that loves the slot? Is it Eric that loves the sloppy? Crunch is all about the sloppy fatties over. Sloppy fatties over, and it pretty much hits every time. There's a chance for it. Like last week, once again, it hit. All right, let's break down this one. Yes, he's still in the UFC. Łukasz the Bull Brzeski. 9-4-1 with 1 no contest. 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out twice. He's durable. We'll give him that. 1-3 in the UFC. 1-3 with 1 no contest over his last 5. He did win his last fight. That you would think saved his UFC career, but who's to say? Because some heavyweights just stick around. No contest on the Contender Series originally was a win, and then he failed a drug test for real drugs, as I like to say, which makes Gumby chuckle sometimes. 2013 Pro MMA debut, more active landing strikes than Parkin. He's got a positive strike differential over his UFC and Contender Series career of 1.63, which you would think he would be more successful, but he hasn't been. Plus 240. Parkin, 9-0, 5 knockouts, 1 submission, 3-0 in the UFC, 1-0 in Contender Series, regional champion, 1-0 as a pro kickboxer, 27 pounds heavier than Brzeski. As Gumby said, Brzeski used to fight down, or I didn't have him listed as light heavyweight, but I think he may have fought light heavyweight. An inch of reach over Brzeski, 3 years younger, so Parkin's going to be much bigger and younger. He's outstruck his opponents in the UFC and the Contender Series by 0.6 strikes per minute, minus 275. Give me Parkin here. He's actually looked pretty decent, all things considered, for a semi-new heavyweight to the UFC. And Brzeski has not looked good. So obviously, I know that's not really technical breaking down here, but it's heavyweights. You don't have to get really technical with these things. Parkin's better. He's my pick.
I mean, I'll give you the technical. Like, first of all, I think Parkin's hands are a little bit faster than Brzeski here, but also the bigger issue for Brzeski is that because he's so much smaller than the average heavyweight, he's had a lot of trouble staying off his back. Even in the win over Walter Walker, and Walter Walker had, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure mine and your cardios are both substantially better than that man's. But like, even given that fact, like, Walter still took him down, 4 or 5 times in that fight? And like, Mick Parkin's go-to here might not be to shoot takedowns and ground and pound finish, but it could be. Like, there's no reason it couldn't be. Like, if he decided, hey, boxing at heavyweight can be a little dangerous, and I've been training with Tom Aspinall for this fight, and Tom Aspinall, hey, guess what, has some pretty damn good wrestling too. Like, maybe he just takes Brzeski out and pounds him out in the first, because he could do that. Now, Crunch is going to tell me it's going to wait until at least it's over 2.5 rounds before he pounds him out. But I will take Mick Parkin here as well. I don't think Brzeski has a lot of threats for him. And even the threats that Brzeski does have, I think Parkin has a skill set that could neutralize those whenever he wanted.
Yes. All right. We're on the same page. We're also on the same page about underdog fantasy. No underdogs leading into this ad read this time, sadly. Underdog fantasy has just launched their college football best ball product. First place wins $20,000. Plus the higher lower pick 8 allows you an opportunity to win 325 times your entry. Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. You can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. I'm not putting you on the spot because I'm going to do it. Gumby, do you have a play for the people?
Yeah, sure. I mentioned it last time, and the game wound up getting rained out on Wednesday. So I'll just take the second half of the Braves doubleheader tonight because they're currently playing as we're recording this one. But in the second half of the doubleheader, Chris Sale's taking the mound, and always you can take the higher than on his strikeouts.
Even when he's not wearing a Braves hat, it's got to be Braves picks with this man, Gumby Brilliant. All right, make sure you don't miss out. Check out pick 8 before it is too late. That rhymes. So sign up with our code MMASGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. That's underdogfantasy.com. Promo code MMASGPN. And Game Time. Our friends at Game Time are back. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices of views from receipt, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. But of course, it's not just MLB. They got everything. I've looked concerts on there. I've looked UFC up on there. They've got it all. So check it all out. As we said, last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. They got it all. Whatever you're looking for, they have it. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, pretty straightforward breakdown of the first two fights. Things get a little trickier here, or at least they did for me. I'm not sure about my co-host, but yeah, I don't know why this fight got bumped to. Actually, no, not this one yet. This fight is straightforward. Another straightforward one. This one is. That's why I looked at your face like, oh, Gumby's confused. So I did something wrong. It is 170 pound. Some of these fights, I should have said off top, I had a hard time with a lot of these fights making picks, but the first three, pretty straightforward. This one is 170 pounds. Sam Patterson, UK. Kiefer, Crosbie, Ireland, 3 500 rounds, 170 pounds. We will tell you about Crosbie first. BDK is a nickname. Do you know what that stands for, Gumby? I've looked it up.
I don't.
Big Daddy Keef, obviously. Obs, right?
I love that.
Yep. He's 10-4, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted twice. 0-1 in the UFC, 2-1 over his last 3, 2-3 over his last 5. He got submitted in his last fight. 4-3 in Bellator. He's got better striking stats than Patterson. He's 3 times more active landing strikes. He's outstruck his one opponent, and this is a small sample size, one opponent in the UFC by 2.08 strikes per minute. Still lost, though, plus 340. The future Sam Patterson, 11-2-1, 4 knockouts, 6 submissions. He's been knocked out twice. He pretty much owes his rounds. 1-1 in the UFC, 7-1 over his last 8, including winning his last fight via submission. 1-0 Contender Series, used to fight at lightweight, 4 inches height, 8 inches of reach, 6 years younger than Crosbie. Better grappling stats than Crosbie. He has been outstruck in the UFC and Contender Series by 0.87 strikes per minute, minus 350. Pretty steep line. Are you going chalk again?
Yeah, I'm going to say Patterson. I mean, obviously, I have the problem with him, and I've said it before in the past about him being like a tall guy and not using his defense. Ashmov got to his chin, and that was obviously, gives us a real concern against shorter guys. But if you watch Kiefer Crosbie's fight with Kevin Jousset, like he just didn't have a good ability to close the distance. Jousset, kind of like Patterson, a much taller welterweight striker. I think he's 6'2" to Patterson's like 6'3" or 6'4". Patterson uses that reach a little worse, but like is a little bit taller. So probably all things considered, it's even. Crosbie had a tough time closing the distance. And then the biggest piece for me in this is probably the biggest issue with Crosbie is that like, if you watch any time after he's thrown big punches and seems to be getting frustrated, if he winds up on the mat, I'm not saying he quits because I don't want to say that about any fighter, but
you don't want to say that ever, do you? You never say that.
I don't. Well, I think I caveat it every time I'm about to say it by saying I don't like saying it. But like anytime he's on the mat and it looks like he's like thrown a lot on the feet or is getting frustrated, the defense to his submission game just looks so bad. Like, and I don't just mean in the Jusei fight. You want to go back and watch a fight. He fought Georgi Kiarkian. I want to say that was in Bellator. Was that in Bellator? But Kiarkian got an arm triangle choke, and it like all of the basic defense you would have expected from Crosbie or somebody of his skill level, just none of it was there. And same thing with Jusei. Jusei got him down on the floor. He went to go sink in a rear naked choke, and Crosbie just kind of like let it go in. And the thing about Patterson is his submission game is really good. Like when he gets a hold of your neck, really good Dars chokes. He has a really good guillotine. Like all of those things are really good from Patterson. So like knowing that and knowing that Crosbie kind of has a tendency to like once a submission is like on its way to being snatched up, he's just kind of like in it and it's done. I mean, I think Patterson is getting a sub here. I don't think there's any two ways around it.
Yeah, Patterson is the pick. Go on top of everything Gumby said. He's going to look like he's like 2 weight classes apart from Crosbie as well. He's so much bigger than him and much younger as well, which helps. So another easy pick. Now this fight, the next fight, this one was a little more difficult. You agree now? No weird face now.
This one's harder to pick than the last one, but I didn't have much trouble picking it. So
all right, good. Let's jump into it then. Manel Kape versus Mohamed Mokaev. This is a flyweight bout. Why did this one get bumped from the main card to the what used to be known as the Facebook prelims? I don't know because these are two top.
I think they're just separating out an exciting fight every once in a while to keep people in the arena at 1 a.m. Because it's I mean, like if you look, the main event of this one's Kape Mokaev. The main event of the second set of prelims is Brasil McCann. Like they're just trying to space out the ones fans will be super excited for.
Yeah. So Mokaev, UK, Kape from Portugal. Was he always from Portugal? I don't remember ever saying he was from
Portugal, Angola. He like reps a bunch of different countries. Yeah. Sometimes he's repped. Was it Japan when he was training out there and fighting out there? But like he's from Angolan descent, but born in Portugal, if I remember correctly.
Young guy, but he has been around. World traveler. He also is the star boy at Kape. It's 19-6, 11 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's been submitted twice, 4-2 in the UFC. He's won 4 straight fights after getting out of the gate very disappointingly. Has not lost since those disappointing performances. That was back in March of 2021 was his last loss. Has missed weight before. Multiple regional championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Used to fight at bantamweight. 2012 Pro MMA debut. He's outstruck his opponents in the UFC by 0.61 strikes per minute. Better striking stats than Mokaev and 3 times more active lady strikes than Mokaev, plus 125. The Punisher, Mohamed Mokaev, 12-0 with 1 no contest, 2 knockouts, 6 submissions, 6-0 in the UFC. He's won 7 straight fights. He used to fight at bantamweight, wrestling champion, basically on like the world level or the national level at the very least. Grappling champ as well. Twitch height, 2 inches of reach over Kape, 7 years younger, which I think makes a big difference, especially at 125 pounds. Better grappling stats than Kape, not surprisingly. He's outstruck his UFC opponents by 0.17 strikes per minute, minus 148. Mokaev is the side I fell down on, came down on. He's going to be able to get the fight to the mat. Kape's takedown defense is pretty solid, but he has been taken down by much lesser wrestlers than Mohamed Mokaev. So I think he's going to grind out another win and remain undefeated.
I don't. I'm all over Manel Kape here. I think. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like Mokaev in the second half of that Alex Perez fight pretty much gave it back to Alex Perez. Like he almost let Alex Perez win that fight because he had no gas left. Because yes, his takedowns are good, but he doesn't have the ability to do it for 15 minutes. I mean, those takedowns he was shooting on Alex Perez at the end of that fight, he was basically sitting down, holding on to his legs, praying that Alex Perez let him go down, and then hoping Alex Perez didn't punch him in the head. And then sadly, Alex Perez didn't punch him in the head. And like, let me tell you something. You're not going to get that lucky with Manel Kape. Manel Kape is going to absolutely torch him when it comes to striking in this fight. Like, I don't think his striking is even remotely close to what Manel brings. Certainly in terms of power, probably not in terms of like technicality and volume. And then when you add in the fact that, Kape's been taken down, but that dude bounces right back up. He's been in there with Alexandre Pantoja and arguably probably would have won that fight if he just stepped on the gas. Like instead he like played this like pitter patter version of what he was doing. And then since then he's realized, when I don't put my foot on the gas, I lose fights. And now he's won 4 in a row by putting his foot on the gas. Like I think Manel Kape is the most dangerous man in the division to Alexandre Pantoja's title reign. I think Pantoja should be worried about a rematch with Manel Kape. And I think Mokaev should be real worried here.
It is. It has always been a tightrope walk with Mokaev. None of his wins have, been totally sweat free. So we shall see if he can escape once more this coming Saturday. It should be a fun fight though, and I want to say they have next, but flyweights kind of who's to say? Maybe they have next.
Yeah, there's a rumor. There's a rumor that was it Kaya Sukara got signed by the UFC and he might be next.
Yep. Yeah.
Which would be exciting. A weird one, but I'd watch the hell out of it. So.
Yeah. Well, he's a bantamweight, but he was a bantamweight was he in one? No, he wasn't.
Rising.
Okay. Because
and I want to say he's made fly. I want to say he's made fly before. So
okay. I was gonna say I was thinking he was one. Their weight classes are wacky with hydration stuff, but yeah. Anyhow, that would be exciting. But it should have been booked already, so Kape or Mokaev could have a title shot to walk into after this. But nonetheless, all right. The main event of the prelims is a Welsh fighter, Oban Elliott, against an American, Preston Parsons. This is 3 5-minute rounds at 170 pounds. I'm going to tell you about the Welsh gangster first. That would be Elliott. Not surprisingly, 10-2, 2 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's been knocked out twice. 1-0 in the UFC. He's won 6 straight and 7 of 8. He's not lost since December 2021. 1-0 contender series. An inch height, an inch reach. 2 years younger than Parsons. Better striking stats, more active landing strikes than Parsons. And he outstruck his UFC and contender series opponents by 2.1 strikes per minute. Very nice number at him. Plus 118. Good number on the board if you want him as well. Pressure, Preston Parsons. Triple P is 11-4 with 9 submissions. He's been knocked out twice, submitted once. 2-2 in the UFC, lost win over his last 4. Used to fight at lightweight, 2014 Pro MMA debut. He's outstruck his UFC opponents by 0.65 strikes per minute. Better grappling stats than Elliott, minus 135. Gumby.
Preston Parsons by a mile.
Pressure.
I mean, Oban Elliott, if you look at his 2 fights on Contender Series in here, first he beat Kayik Brito basically by Brito punching him in the head too much and him running out of gas. I want to say, was that a majority decision because they gave Brito a 10-8 in there? And then he beat Val Woodburn, which, if you want to put a feather in his cap for grinding out a decision victory over Val Woodburn.
The Gardner, Val Woodburn.
By all means, give him credit for that. But look, the thing about Elliott is he kind of needs to wrestle and he kind of needs to grapple in order to win. And he's up against a guy whose jiu-jitsu is infinitely better than his. Parsons locks up submissions. Parsons has wrestling defense. And I think Parsons has a striking advantage here too. Elliott is got to take him down and pray to God he doesn't get caught while doing it. And that's kind of his only way to win this fight. And, Parsons hasn't been a world beater, which is why you're seeing his number, come in so close to even. But, man, I don't love the path to victory here for Oban Elliott. You're going to be sweating out a decision if you want to do that. And if that's the case, you might as well play the over.
Another overhyped UK prospect, perhaps, Oban Elliott. Pressure Preston Parsons is going to put the pressure on Gumby and grapple him to death. So, we get a pretty nice number on him, minus 135. So, all right, that is just the early prelims, ladies and gentlemen. So, a pretty stacked fight card. Before we jump into the main prelims, who do I got to tell you about next? I don't have to. I want to tell you about Rhythm. If you're not checking out the AI picks and props from Rhythm, you're missing out. They dominated the British Open, and their college football product is about to drop. You can even customize your own betting models easily using Rhythm's tools. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Imagine the regret you'll feel if you win your office Survivor pool but didn't enter the Circa Survivor. And of course, Circa contests have no rake. Don't have a trip booked for Las Vegas yet before football? Ultimate Contest Weekend is a great time to go out. You can hang with our bosses, Ryan and Sean. Tell them how great we are, of course, and enjoy some of the open bar events of the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through the 24th. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with promo code SGP. All right, main card. Let's get jumping on it. This is a massive fight card. It's going to be a long episode. All right, light heavyweights. Modestas Bukauskas, who does not sound like the name would make you think he sounds like. He's from Lithuania. He's been on Gummy's podcast, Top Turtle. So there you go. He's fighting Marcin Prachnio from Poland. Not five. These guys are not in the main event. 3 5-minute rounds at 100 and how much do they fight at? 100 and
205.
205, right? They're big boys, not 185. They're 205. All right. Prachnio, we'll tell you about first. 17-7, 11 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out 4 times, submitted once. 4-5 in the UFC. Lost win over his last 4. You think I would be better at this? How many episodes have we done? 600 plus? You think I would be
617, but you're right around 600.
You think I would be in a groove by now, but no, it's a bunch of stumbling and bumbling. All right, that's a good title, stumbling and bumbling. Mr. Prachnio used to fight at heavyweight and middleweight, was a regional champion, 4-0 in 1 championship, so he has fought the toughest competition in the world, even though none of them have Wikipedia pages. 2013 Pro MMA debut, better striking stats, more active landing strikes, and better grappling stats than Bukauskas, plus 2.31 strike differential for Prachnio. You think he would have a better record in the UFC, but no. He's at plus 136. The Baltic Gladiator is Mr. Bukauskas. He's 15-6, 9 knockouts, 2 submissions, knocked out 4 times, submitted once, 3-4 in the UFC over 2 stints. However, he's 4-1 over his last 5. However, he got knocked out in his last fight. Was a Cage Warriors champion, a regional champion, used to fight at middleweight, 4 inches reach over Prachnio, 6 years younger. He's been outstruck in the UFC by 0.59 strikes per minute, minus 150. I gotta go first here, do I? Give me the Baltic Gladiator. Size, youth has really improved since he was last in the UFC. Fighting on basically he fights out of England, so he'll be fighting on home soil as well. Not that I should start tracking that again, whether that actually makes a difference, but it does in some events. I guess Bukauskas, you got to worry a bit about his chin and going up against a guy that knocks people out, though. But he is my pick, but I'm not super sold on it unless Gumby can sell me here.
Well, I'm going to sell you a little bit on him because I don't always like to use information from my interviews with fighters to make handicaps, but like a nice little tidbit on Bukauskas going into this fight that some people might find valuable is he's been taking about half of this training camp and working directly with Tom Aspinall. And while that seems like, okay, well, maybe he's just got a couple better training partners, he's working with Mick Parkin and Tom Aspinall, who are big guys. One of the things that you'll notice about Aspinall and Parkin, as well as in the matchups that they have on this card, is that they are guys who occasionally use their wrestling to like neutralize some really great strikers. I mean, we saw it with Tom Aspinall when he beat Alexander Volkov. We saw it with Mick Parkin when he won his contract on the Contender Series. Like, those guys are people who go to their wrestling, which exists in times of need and when it makes the most sense. Now, we'll probably not see Aspinall do that on this card against Curtis Blades, but that means Bukauskas has probably been working that kind of stuff. And then when you could hear him talk about the style of this matchup, he talked about knowing that Prachnio is dangerous with his hands and knowing he's coming off of a knockout loss. And like, it seems like he understands that his avenue here, or his avenue might be to grind some stuff out here. And Bukauskas has got ground skills that I think maybe we just haven't seen in a while. I think this is a good opportunity to see him here against Prachnio. I think you're going to see him take him down, grind him out. And we've seen Prachnio have issues with that before. So I like Bukauskas in this fight. I think there's a good chance that change in training camp is going to allow him to do a little bit more. And don't get me wrong, again, Prachnio dangerous with the hands, but it's always been kind of a more wild style, right? Like wider hooks and kind of throwing caution to the wind. I mean, that was his fight with, we want to go back to his fight with Sam Alvey. It was just like, a sloppy fest of who was going to knock the other one out first. So, yeah, I'll take Bukauskas here.
All right, excellent. Let's drop down to bantamweights. Loughran from Ireland, Jake Hadley from England, 3 5-minute rounds, 135. Hadley, of course, is White Kong, 10-3, 3 knockouts, 5 submissions, never been finished in a fight. He's stepping in here on short notice. 2-3 in the UFC. He's lost 2 straight. Before that, he won 2 straight. Normally, he fights at flyweight, so he's basically short notice. He's just not cutting as much weight. 1-0 Contender Series, 1-0 Bellator. Has missed weight before at 125, though. So hopefully that won't be an issue up a weight class, even if it is short notice. Was Cage Warriors champion. This is all about Cage Warriors. These two next 2 episodes we're doing here. A lot of former Cage Warriors champs. Hadley used to be regional champ, an inch height, 2 inches reach over Loughran. He's been outstruck in the UFC by 0.2 strikes per minute, plus 180. The Dawn, Loughran, 9-1, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions, never been finished in a fight. 1-1 in the UFC, won his last fight. Cage Warriors champion. There you go. Formerly. Used to fight at featherweight. More active landing strikes than Hadley. He has outstruck his opponents by 0.54 strikes per minute, minus 195.
Yeah, I'm going with Loughran here. I think, obviously the short notice piece with Jake Hadley is an issue too, but also just like the style of this fight, right? Loughran is a guy who can wrestle quite a bit. And if you've watched Jake Hadley, while I was high on his wrestling coming in, like he looked really good wrestling Mitch Raposo in his Contender Series fight. And even some of his earlier UFC fights, you were like, oh, that wrestling, it plays. It's not looked great as of late. And it's kind of fallen off for me as he stepped up in competition. He also gets hit a lot here. And Loughran is first of all, a very strong guy. And so for him to go up in weight class and be taking punches from a bigger, stronger guy and a guy who can wrestle quite a little bit, man, I don't really know what Jake Hadley has to do to win here to be on the offensive. I mean, maybe, we're looking for him to throw a home run shot and knock somebody out. Cause I guess he's done that before, but I don't know if Loughran is the guy you're going to do that again. So I just see Loughran, putting pressure on him, bulldozing him, kind of bullying him a little bit in terms of size. Cause I think he's going to be way stronger than Hadley here, especially on short notice. So I think this is actually a fairly easy spot for Loughran.
Yep. I agree. Loughran is my pick as well. Hadley's just been too inconsistent in the UFC to really bank on him, especially up a weight class on short notice too. So you don't always know what you're going to get with him. Well, maybe we're finding out what we're going to get with him is disappointing performances normally. So yeah, Loughran is my pick as well. All right, let's move on. 2 more fights here, and then we're out of here. This is women's strawweight. Molly McCann, England versus Bruna Brasil from Brazil. We'll tell you about her first. Bruna Brasil, the special one, 9-4-1, 3 knockouts, 2 submissions, been knocked out 3 times, 1-2 in the UFC, loss over her last 3, 1-0 Contender Series, 2014 Pro MMA debut, 0-1 as a pro boxer, 2 inches height, 3 inches of reach, 3 years younger than Meatball Molly. She's been outstruck in the UFC and the Contender Series by 0.98 strikes per minute, plus 280. Meatball Molly, 14-6, 6 knockouts, 1 submission, been knocked out, submitted, 3 times. 7-5 in the UFC, 1-2 over her last 3. Got 1 via submission in her last fight. Used to fight at flyweight. Cage Warriors champion, regional champion, has outstruck her opponents in the UFC by 0.85 strikes per minute. She's twice more active landing strikes than Brazil, minus 345. I don't know about this line. I guess Meatball Molly's going to win because wrestlers tend to be the ones that cause her trouble, and she grapples more than Brazil does. And I like Brazil, but she just really hasn't shown it fight to fight that she's can really compete on this level. McCann's another also fighter that really feeds off home crowds, and I think she's going to feed off the home crowd here. So I don't like the line, but I think McCann's going to win.
I hate the line enough that I'm going to go Bruna Brasil.
Okay.
I think, don't get me wrong, I think this is a tight fight. Because like you said, Molly McCann has a lot of trouble with wrestlers, which she's not facing here, and I do mean she has a lot of trouble with wrestlers, but also if you watch that fight with Deanna Balbicha, she wound up kind of trying to be the bully in that fight too, which I think is sort of her goal of going down to strawweight, right? Is that she couldn't handle, the size bullies and the more strength up at flyweight. So she's going to go down to flyweight and she's going to try to be that person. I don't think she's going to do that to Bruna Brasil. You know what I mean? Bruna Brasil is very physically strong for strawweight. That is, she's not a wrestler, but in terms of size, that's kind of Molly McCann's worst nightmare down at this weight class. And I would say this, you're right. She hasn't looked consistent at strawweight, but let's talk about why. So first of all, her first fight in the UFC, she got tagged early in the fight and she was moving backwards and probably needed to do something different. She turned that around, absolutely put a clinic on Shauna Bannon. And then, following that, had a competitive fight with Loma Lookboonmee, who is a striker who puts, together really nice combinations. She won the last round in that fight. I would say a close decision with Loma Lookboonmee gives me all the confidence I need that she would beat Molly McCann, right? Because Loma would win a fight with Molly McCann, especially in the clinch. She's got the trip, she's got the knees to the body. She would, despite being way smaller than Molly, deal with her. And so in this one, I think with the way that Bruna Brasil has kind of like dealt with that kind of good striker before, I think she can win a volume striking match here. So give me Bruna Brasil at a big old price.
Hey, I wouldn't be mad if she wins. She's a fighting nerd, first of all, so we like her for that reason.
That's another one. That's another one. We like fighting nerds.
And a fun fighter, but yeah, McCann has seemed to have some turmoil outside of the cage as well. Seems to be where's her emotions on her sleeve too. So how much that is actually going to affect her, hard to say. But I think the home crowd is going to give her a boost here and win. But I am not betting her at minus 345. That's for damn sure here. All right, main event of the prelims is a featherweight fight. Nathaniel Wood from England versus Daniel Pineda from United States of America. Daniel the Pit Daniel Pineda, or is it Daniel the Pit Pineda? I don't know.
I think it's Daniel the Pit Pineda. I think it's a middle one.
Okay, it's a middle one instead of another one. All right, he's 28-15 with 3 no contests, 9 knockouts, 19 submissions. He's finished everyone. He's been knocked out 3 times, submitted 6 times, 5-6 with 1 no contest in the UFC over 2 stints. He's fought 12 times in the UFC. Really? Wow. 1-2 with 1 no contest over his last 4. He did lose his last fight. That was back in June of 2023. So he's on a bit of a hiatus here. Let's check those stats. Fighters that have been out of the cage over a year, 45% win rate when they come back. So not so hot. Multiple regional championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Get sticky with it. He used to fight at lightweight and welterweight. He has 2 no contests in PFL because he failed a drug test. I think he won both those fights. Yeah, would have won both those fights. Originally, they got changed to no contests for real drugs. 1-4 in Bellator. 2007 Pro MMA debut. An inch height over Wood. He's been outstruck in the UFC by 0.09 strikes per minute, plus 350. How did someone 1-4 in Bellator make it in the UFC is beyond me. But anyhow,
it was
Wood,
early. It was early Bellator, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Wood, the prospect, Nathaniel Wood, even though I guess he's still young enough. He's 19-6, 8 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's been knocked out twice, submitted twice, 7-3 in the UFC, 3-1 over his last 4. He did lose his last fight. He's fight at bantamweight. Was a Cage Warriors champion previously. I think you've heard that before, maybe. 1-0 Bellator, 2013 Pro MMA debut, 8 years younger than Pineda. Better striking stats, more active landing strikes, and better grappling stats than Pineda. He's outstruck his opponents in the UFC by 1.69. 6'9", nice strikes per minute, minus 425.
I'm going to say this. I'm not in love with this line, but I'm not scared of it enough to pick Pineda. I'm going to go with Nathaniel Wood here. I think, like what we saw out of him against Naimov, granted, he did give up some takedowns and ultimately lost that fight against Muhammad Naimov because of those takedowns. Like, he also scored a couple himself and has kind of shown that, like, he's going to be a much faster striker than literally just about any featherweight on this roster. He's so damn fast because he's originally a bantamweight, and granted, he kind of grew out of bantamweight and like has to fight up here now. But like, he's just going to be so much faster than Pineda. And for me, Pineda does have the wrestling, which obviously is the thing in my mind that makes me be like, well, we probably stay away from Wood at a number, up over $4. But I do think the fact that, Pineda, I just don't think is going to be quick enough. Wood did get up enough against Naimov to at least, I mean, he clearly won the 3rd round in that fight. I think Wood has got enough on the feet, is going to defend enough takedowns here that he's going to piece him up and beat him. But again, that's probably one that I just stay away from, but I'll take Wood.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Another unplayable line, but Wood has to be the pick for, like Gumby said, all the reasons. Way younger as well, not just way faster, way younger. So you would think he could keep his pace longer than Pineda. Pineda's got a lot of miles on his odometer for sure. All right, it looks like I went chalk all those fights.
You might need your nickname back, my man.
Exactly. I didn't plan that going in advance, but I ended up all chalk. So hey, that's all right. I've been doing good on dogs this year, so I better pick some dogs in the main card. All right, let's recap quickly. We got Wood. We both have Wood. I have McCain. That didn't sound good, Gumby. But anyhow, I have McCann. He has Brazil. We both have Loughran. That sounds better. Both have Bukauskas. We both have Parsons. I have Mokaev. He has Kape. Both have Patterson. Both have Parkin. Both have Bannon. All right, we're getting back tomorrow. Within minutes, basically, we'll be back in your ears and eye holes. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you check us out in Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Twitter, we're SGPN MMA. He's going to be reeling. I'm a Jeff Fox writer there and on Instagram. Get into my Substack, moneymma.substack.com. Enter my free Pick'em contest that I have going for UFC 304. Gumby, Top Turtle MMA podcast. Haven't listened yet this week. Tell the people what they can enjoy on your show this week.
We're going to be talking to a pair of fighters on Contender Series, Michael Aswell and Corinne Laframboise, and obviously breaking down a couple of the UFC 304 fights.
Guess which one's Canadian, people. You'll never guess which one. And of course, I told you to subscribe. Of course, sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Big Daddy Jeff and Mama B, Gumby Vreeland. Talk to you then.